Our state has some incredible problems. My name is Lynn Hinderaker. I'm here to talk about that with you and talk about the trends that have shaped this state and dragged us in one direction or another. We're not really we're not realizing the dream we had way back in the early 2000s or even around 2008 or 9 or 10. My name is Lynn Hinderaker. Welcome to WowBiz Nebraska. We're going to get it on right now. As you take a look at the brain drain article to my immediate right, you realize we have not solved this fundamental problem. As the population declines in Nebraska, so do taxes go up. Hear me now, taxes go up if we can't attract top-tier employees and young professionals, if you will. And by the way, we've had an opportunity here recently, and we kind of blew it. You may know or recall just a few weeks ago, by the way, that a young lady who was the top scoring high school graduate here in the state of Nebraska, her name is Jo Rutar, nice young lady, and she was the very last one. They're going to give her a big award and so on, and congratulate her for her incredible scores on her ACT tests. We've all taken them. We know how challenging they can be. So she's there in front of the governor and a lot of other dignitaries. She receives her award, and then with everybody watching, she says, "You know, I'm just not super inspired to stay here in Nebraska. I think we should all be a little bit more like Minneapolis, and that's where I'm going to go after this ceremony." Oh my goodness, right? Oh my goodness. The top performing scholar in the state of Nebraska said to everybody, "We just don't have it together, and I'm out of here." And that is the problem that you see outlined right here in this particular article, this brain drain headline here. And here is Jo Rutar chatting into the camera, telling everybody she is not going to stay. She's not super inspired to remain in Nebraska. So this problem that we've had since 2002, when we were losing about 2,000 graduates every year, from the state of Nebraska. Now we're up to about 4,600 and counting. And by the way, not just college graduates anymore. Now it's hourly laborers and people that don't have a college education. They're leaving too. They're leaving as well. So we have some big issues that we need to come to grips with. Now I'm going to give you the solution to the problem, or at least a very close approximation of the solution. And I'm going to tell you the key here. Now you've heard this phrase before, connect the dots. You got a problem, you got to come up with a solution, take a look at the landscape, try to focus in on different things that are going on that are relevant, and then what? Connect the dots, right? Connect the dots. And so, ladies and gentlemen, I'm Lynn Hinderaker with WowBiz Nebraska, and I am going to connect the dots right now in front of you, focusing on the research and the background and a lot of cool things that three gentlemen who have now passed, by the way, have put together that we can string together and come up with a solution, or at least 90% of the solution that would stop this kind of tragedy and prevent taxes going up yet again, right? Yet again. So I'm going to chat with you very briefly right now about these three people. Try to listen carefully to me and try to understand how these are in fact connected. Now in 1981, a brilliant man named David Hubble, H-U-B-E-L, and he did this with another guy named Roger Sperry, and they conducted 30 years of research to try to understand a portion of our brain called the visual cortex. The visual cortex. And here's how that goes. When human beings, all of us, when we see a high contrast visual, let me say that again, high contrast visual, maybe something white and black right next together, and there are many options there, but essentially contrast, opposites. Our mind focuses on as they come together, and there's a sense of novelty, right? There's white and then there's black, and that's a form of novelty as far as our brains are concerned. Now, that image goes through an energetic path, so to speak, back to our visual cortex, and that's the key deal. And this gentleman, who was a doctor, by the way, David Hubble, he measured what happened at that point. And what did happen is that the visual cortex sent out, they reacted to the energetic impulse I alluded to before, and stimulated another portion of our human brain, which releases dopamine. Dopamine, that's right. And as you might know, it's a hormone. All human beings have it, and it's kind of a gentle, good mood type of attitude, or something that we all have. We all have. I always tell somebody that my 5-year-old grandson jumps in my arms and gives me a big hug. There's a little bit of a release of dopamine. So you understand what I'm getting at. It's actually an energetic response, a certain type of energy. Now the question is, what kind of contrast, visual contrast, matters? What are we talking about here? Now black and white, that's obvious of course, but what if, for instance, porous wood was situated right next to kind of a shiny steel, right? Or glass. So we have an organic and a synthetic material. One's kind of a muted color, the other one's rather bright, for instance. I'm just giving you some quick examples. Same release in the human brain, same impulse, same response, kind of a good feeling. Now just think if you were an architect and you were designing an office building, or maybe the interior of an office building, or the interior of a home, and there was a lot of industrial metal situated close to porous wood, just like the black and white example I gave you a second ago. Then you're sitting on it, you're looking around, you have a big grin on your face, it just feels good in here. I like the vibes in here. I might want to work in here. I might want to stay in here, as a matter of fact. Might want to do some work in here. I really feel good here. This is my kind of place. That's right. That's right. Now, who would want that reaction? Who would want that reaction to come up in a conversation, formal or informal? Well, I guarantee you, if you're a mayor of a city, an economic developer, a chamber person, I don't care if you're in Beatrice, Fairbury, Nebraska City, Wayne, doesn't matter. Any one of those places would like, you know, I wouldn't mind it if there were a few more young professionals in our community, in our neighborhood, that really like this environment, this design that we seem to have. So that's David Hubble. Don't forget him. He is fundamental to what we're discussing here. Now there's a second man. His name is Paul Ray. He also was passed. He used to be the head of the Noetic Institute. He's a researcher, a demographer. He did elaborate research on all of America and divided us all up into 3 different segments. He came up with one segment in particular. 38% of us, 50 million knowledge workers. They used to be called cultural creatives. Those of you that are above 50 or 60 years of age remember cultural creatives. They're now referred to as urban naturals. These are the people, ladies and gentlemen, that we want to come to Nebraska, do all the high-level thinking, the strategy, all the cool stuff that we need help with, and we want them to be attracted to the buildings and the interiors that I just described before with Mr. David Hubble. And then finally, we have the best marketing business person that ever lived. His name is Peter Drucker, and he passed away in the mid-90s, and he said the following, and then we'll cut away real quick. Mr. Peter Drucker said, in around 1995, he said, marketing and innovation are all that matter. Everything else is an expense. He cut to the bone, didn't he? Peter Drucker said it, marketing and innovation, that's everything. Everything else is an expense. Think about that. Those 3 individuals right there have got all the knowledge, all the wisdom that we need to populate the state of Nebraska, energize it, revitalize it, get these people into various communities here in the state of Nebraska. Very exciting solution to a very tough, chronic problem. That's right. Well, you know what? We're going to wrap up this portion of WowBiz Nebraska. I'm again Lynn Hinderaker, and our sponsor today for this particular show, and we're so grateful for them, is an organization named Urban Natural America. Now, they're very closely tied in with what I just described to you. I'm going to say it out loud, Urban Natural America, and I'm going to spell it. And I'm going to encourage, even as I say this to you, you need to go to this website. It's one of the most beautiful and educational sites you'll ever see. It's spelled as follows, URBANATURAL, Urban Natural, one N in the middle, Urban Natural America, just as it sounds, phonetically.com. All right, urbannaturalamerika.com. Now this is a fascinating website, and this is the site that you go to go, you know, if we had some money here, we could probably do something maybe pretty cool, something kind of like this, that would attract these young people that we keep hearing about. And we could do a university, we could get some nonprofits going, we could have a really hip, contemporary community right here instead of this kind of dried up and this dried up community, staid community that we currently have. Urban Natural America, check it out. You're going to learn all about what young people think about any community based on the design I mentioned earlier, but these people with Urban Natural America really know how to turn on the juice, shall I say, and attract the kinds of people you're looking for your next generation, your city council, your mayors, all those kinds of people. They're environmentally pure, sustainable, diversity, inclusion, all these trends that are reshaping America. You'll see them in these Urban Natural people. UrbanNatural.com, please check it out and enjoy what you see. I think you'll find it to be very rewarding and entertaining as well, by the way. All right, we're back here at WowBiz Nebraska. Things are moving rapidly, and I'm excited about going through them. You know, one of the key things that comes up here as we talk about getting and keeping people here in the state is this issue of innovation, you know. And a lot of people say, well, you know, what is that really? In fact, I was at the unicameral recently at the Capitol and visiting with a few of the legislators. Most of them were very busy, but I talked to their staffs a lot, and I'd mention this. I'd say, you know, we just don't seem to put enough emphasis on innovating, although there are some exceptions to be sure. There are different companies in the state that are innovative, but not nearly. We are rated number 46, ladies and gentlemen. Number 46 in innovation here in the state of Nebraska. That's not so good. So a couple of people said, you know, the word sounds really cool, but you know, what does innovation really mean? And that was a good question. And so I'm going to quickly do the best. I'm going to kind of look down here on my little sheet of paper with my notes, and I'm going to whip off rather quickly many different variations and examples of innovation. And these are the things that attract new customers, right? New customers as well as workers. This is the nuts and bolts. This is the bread and butter. We got to have workers. We got to get the work out, and we periodically would like to introduce something new. So here we go. This is what innovation looks like in Nebraska. This is why it's so gosh darn important. All right, here we go. New products, that's predictable. New partnerships, new systems, new teams, new media, new strategies, new stories, new objectives, new benchmarks, that's good. New brands, new leaders, new events, new offices, new market segments. Oh yeah, now we're going to talk a little bit about that. New ways to think. Now that's a very powerful and important consideration. New rewards, and most interestingly, new technology. So at the very beginning, new products, very end, new technology. Of course, we all know about AI and all the things that come out of that. So that's a fascinating spectrum of ways that people can attract. Now, by the way, I'm going to give you something you don't know. Let's pretend there are two companies in Nebraska. One does $1 million in sales. The other one also does $1 million in sales. Doesn't matter what the industry is for the time being. But at the end of the year, taking a look at profits now, the company, and I'm going to make sure I get this right so I don't misunderstand, the company that doesn't innovate did make a profit, okay? They do $1 million in sales, and their profits are $120,000. $120,000 seems reasonable. Not, you know, could be worse, that's for sure. The company that does innovate, and that's just part of their culture, they do a lot of cool testing and research, they talk to the end user, they form certain partnerships around the state, around the region. All right, these are innovators, man. And they get $220,000 in profits. So just again, the organization that doesn't innovate, $120,000. the organization that does innovate, 220,000 in profits, okay? These are the kind of numbers most people don't really know. They're being thrown around loosely, but this is the reality, all right? And so somebody says, well, you know, why should I go to all the trouble? Well, we're talking in this particular example over $100,000 in bottom line, right? In bottom line. Okay. Well, again, thank you for joining me here in WowBiz, Nebraska. I'm going to chat with you very briefly and talk with you about the times they are changing, right? We are in a very interesting period. Some people are very apprehensive about it, very nervous. They're not spending any money, they're holding on. Other people are saying, hey, this is the time to go. Because if you take a look, interestingly, if you take a look at the economy, most of the indicators, not all, but most of the indicators from jobs and wages and so on are all pretty positive, all right? They're all pretty positive. So I'm going to read this little thing right here because this is so interesting, and I'm going to use these hats. Now, I happen to have two hats, and of course they have different colors. They look different as you put them on. But as I put them on and take them off, I want you to think about, pretend you're the president of a company, and you'd like to do a little better than you're doing right now, and your competitors seem to be pretty strong, so you got to get out there and hustle and do something. So somebody says, hey boss, they say, why don't we think, maybe we can think a little differently about our customer, right? Maybe there's something about our customer that we're missing, all right? Something that we're not even selling to, or we're not appealing, or whatever. And another guy says, yeah, you know, boss, maybe if we took something out of our formula, our production formula, our distribution, something that's a little different, and it wouldn't hurt the quality. In fact, it probably might make it even a little bit better. Now, here's an example. You've all seen this kind of thing before. Have you noticed that the no sugar trend is so huge in beverages and pop and even in food and so on? This happens to be a coffee flavoring product right here. This happens to be mocha, one of my favorite flavors, and I drink a lot of coffee with it. But here's what's interesting to me: 0 calories and 0 sugar, all right? So this company was in business. They said, you know, maybe we should appeal to a different segment of the population. Maybe they have diabetes or they're nervous about diabetes. And so we're going to put out a product that tastes great, of course. We don't want to give up anything, but we're going to take out this feature. We're going to take out this element, this sugary element right here, and it still tastes good, and it'll appeal to a different segment. Now, I don't mean to sound too simplistic. Everybody's probably rolling their eyes here, but the bottom line is there are certainly ways, probably, right, that your product or service could be repriced or redefined in some way if you took some feature out, maybe some ingredient, some formula, something that fit into your product. Take it out and just play around with it and see, is there some way we could do this? And maybe we could lower the price slightly and have kind of a value product, and that would be cool, right? And so that's it. Another thing is just to think about the market segment. You know, most people know what conventional market share is, right? It's just like a pie. And you try to make your piece of the pie a little bit larger every year. That's what you're looking for. But there might be a whole segment that's a whole, like a different pie altogether. Not just the market pie that you have in front of you every single day trying to figure out, how do I ease that? How do I get a little bigger slice there? That's an okay thing to do, although you oftentimes end up getting into a price war with your closest competitor, and it's not very profitable sometimes, right? But what if there's a whole new kind of competitor? Maybe it's not a pie, maybe it's a cake or a cupcake or something like that. And maybe the customers over there, they've never even heard of you. They've never even used your product. They don't think that they need the product. And so they look, when you look at them and you look at their purchasing habits and so on, you know, they're definitely different. And they have money. They spend money on certain things that are kind of like your product or service. And so it might make some sense to pull your team together and say, hey, how can we go over here? You know, I'm going to give you a quick example. We'll go back to the sugar-free piece as well. You probably have realized that there are circuses. I'm sure we all remember that from our childhood. But now somebody said, you know, let's get rid of the elephants in the circus, okay? That cuts a huge amount of our money out, our costs. We don't have to deal with the elephants. Now our overall costs go down, our profits go up, and we can, invest some of that in, maybe acrobats and some other kinds of musicians, whatever, right? And so all of a sudden now they remake the product, and it's called Cirque du Soleil. Cirque du Soleil. And in Las Vegas, each of the seats is like $150 each, maybe more, I'm not sure these days. And all that happened is somebody said, boss, maybe we could take the sugar out, maybe we could take the elephants out and have even bigger or more exciting experience there in Las Vegas with Cirque du Soleil. All right. And by the way, most companies call this the red. There's the kind of like the red ocean, which is blood, and blood has to do with cutting prices and discounts and all that. But you go over here and you have a blue, you have an ocean that has no blood in it, no price cutting in it. It's just the ocean. We call it blue ocean strategy. Blue ocean strategy. It's very interesting. It's been talked about for a number of years now in Harvard Business Review, and it makes a really good point. Now, when the game keeps changing, it's really a great time to be nimble, right? To be nimble and to move quickly, right? Really, speed's very important. And necessarily reorganize as required. Now, here's how you do it. Here's the word. You've already heard about this in technology. Well, we're agile. We're an agile software development firm. You hear that all the time. So you take the word kinetic, very similar to agile, means roughly the same thing. Figure out where the trend is, figure out how to adapt, be kinetic, move quickly, put more people in this department, take more people out of that department. That's kinetic, right? We're staffing up and we're going in the direction wherever the momentum is in the marketplace. That's kinetic. Now, here's another concept that you want to remember. As the world is swirling around you and you don't know what to do exactly with your company and your staff. Way back in 2002, you're not going to believe this, I wrote an article about fusion, the word fusion. I felt fusion was a really big word. It kind of explained how organizations come together, people help each other. New products are bits and pieces pulled together into a new product. Fusion creates a lot of energy, all right? Excitement. Now, what about if you saw something like AI or something, quantum physics, coming on the horizon? You're running your company, you're busy, and you see this thing coming, you read about it, and something's coming towards you. You have a vision, right? You have a vision. You're a visionary kind of person if you get an opportunity to shut the office door and just think for a while. And you say to yourself, this vision is changing the technology here, it's changing the logistics over here. We could probably take one part of that and match it up with something we're doing back here in this department over here. We could fuse, right? We could fuse them together. We could fuse things together in a convergent way. And then you'd be, what would you be? You wouldn't be a visionary anymore, you'd be a fusionary. You wouldn't be a visionary, you'd be a fusionary. You're looking ahead and you're seeing how things naturally converge. So we're suggesting to you tonight, right here in WowBiz, Nebraska, and thank you again for watching, be kinetic, steal the agile model away from the technology sector, be kinetic, and also think like a fusionary, look ahead, be visionary, and then find bits and pieces that are part of the trail as the thing evolves, and leave some customers behind, by the way. Think about that, and you can circle back, pick those people up with a new product or service, a new brand, a new look, a new package, all kinds of cool things. Fusionary, all right? Not a bad name, not a bad strategy. So, one more time here, I'm Lynn Hinderaker, and I'm going to put this other hat on right now because I'm going to challenge you as we sign off here in WowBiz, Nebraska. I'm going to challenge you to rebrand and reimagine your company and your customer, right? Rebrand and reimagine. Think differently about how they're currently interacting. And obviously they're doing some things on the web and so on, but are we losing the human touch, or is there some way to speed things up? Do we get partners involved? The fusion thing really implies joint ventures, strategic alliances. We have an incredible document called Partner or Perish. I'll say it again, Partner or Perish. Once again, speaking to the fusionary concept that I just mentioned to you a second ago. So there's a lot of things happening in this era, but it doesn't have to be a negative thing. It doesn't have to be a worrisome thing. You need to pull your people together with a big grin on your face and say, look, there's a lot going on. Let's make sure we get our piece of the pie, maybe a larger piece of the pie. Do we jump in big here? Do we pull back? And by the way, it wouldn't hurt to hire a customer researcher, customer interviewer, somebody that goes out, sits down quietly, privately with your customers and says, what do you think? What do you think? What are they missing? What should they be doing? And you don't have to turn them into your marketing director or anything, but you can tell them and get them to be emotional, use metaphors and symbols. Metaphors and symbols are how your customers will finally say, you know, I wish they're kind of like an elephant. They lumber, they're big, they're heavy, but they go a little bit slow compared to what I've seen around. They need to speed it up. Maybe they should be more like a cheetah or a leopard or something like that in the forest of technology and business. All right. Well, we're having a good time here. I just want to thank you for tuning in to WowBiz Nebraska. Remember, it's possible to be profitable now during this particular chapter in our economy. Things are not necessarily bad, although some people will tell you otherwise. Take advantage of what's swirling around you and enjoy life. I'm Lynn Hinderaker from WowBiz Nebraska. We'll see you next time. And by the way, check out Urban Natural America. Linger over the images and the text. You'll learn a lot in a short period of time. We'll see you next time. Thanks so much for watching.